In this week's episode of Studio Inter, we'll be discussing the win against Parma, previewing the two upcoming games against Rapid Vienna in the Europa League and Sampdoria in the Serie A, Inter Legends, this week's Moggi, Moratti and Frog, and much, much more. Everything here on Studio Inter, only on SempreInter.com.
Ecco Perisic, 1 contro 1, gioco di gambe, guadagna il fondo, il cross, Icardi, e gol, 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 Maurito il Mamba!
Sono i blocchi nell'area di rigore, arriva la palla, la prende Messino! La prende Messino! Che segna solo contro le romane, segna il gol del 3-2!
Per una vittoria eccezionale, eccezionale!
Benvenuti, bentornati to another edition of Studio Inter. I'm your host Nima Tavallaey, wishing you all a welcome to a week where Inter have finally won for the first time in 2019, and Inter have also managed to score in open play. I think the last time that happened was when Jesus was wearing shorts and Moses had a shave. But either way, it happened, and I'm joined by three lovely guests to discuss a lot, because as always, Inter doesn't just win and make life easier, make life easy for themselves. They have to complicate things. And therefore we have a lot of content, which we're grateful for, I guess. But starting off with the Inter Legends writer on SempreInter.com, all the way from the Carolinas, as we call them. Welcome, Mr. Critty Smith.
Hey, Nima, how you doing? And Will and Mo, I blocked off this hour called Inter Time on my calendar at Outlook, so people at work don't come looking for me.
And we're also joined by the preview writer for SempreInter.com, excellent preview writer, Mr. Mohamed Nassar.
Hey guys, fantastic to finally be back on this after a win, so look forward to a good pod.
Looking forward to it. And we are joined by our good friend who hasn't been with us for quite some time. He writes for the Serpents of Madonnina. He writes on SempreInter.com. He's also on radio shows all over London, and all-round good guy, Mr. Will Beckman.
I'm on one radio show occasionally. That is,
well, so I embellish.
Artistic license, yeah.
Exactly, thank you.
Welcome back to the land of the living, Interisti.
Yes, it was nice to win. It was nice to win. Yeah. Right, let's get to it. We did Inter played against Parma in the first half that looked somewhat better than it has so far. I mean, they looked like they had intentions, but above all, they were really lacking that final product. Gervinho hit the bar, and I think everyone was feeling this was going to be one of those days. But then in the second half and halftime, something happened. I think something did happen at halftime, tactically and attitude-wise, and a lot of that, in my opinion, it goes down to a certain Raja Nainggolan. I'm keen to hear what you think, Will. Is this such a flash in the pan, or is this the beginning of his redemption?
Well, I don't see any reason to assume that it would be a flash in the pan. I mean, he was very candid after the match when he was talking about changes he's made to his lifestyle, how he's going to have to approach his football in a different way. You know, he's just turned 30, and he made it clear that it was put to him that a lot of footballers after the age of 30 have to change the way that they live their lives in order to stay at the level that they were able to maintain throughout the rest of their career. And he said pretty much, I've never really given much importance to what I do off the pitch, to how much I drink, to what clubs I go to, or so on and so forth. But now I'm going to have to think about this a bit more. I'm going to need to be more circumspect. And I mean, if the performance on Saturday is anything to go by, then yeah, I think this could be a very important moment for Nainggolan in his season. I mean, the penalty miss against Lazio was about as low as it could have got. I thought maybe that was kind of the point of no return, but he seemed to be very, very open. He said that he's made some kind of pact with the club that that they've shown all this faith in him, and he wants to repay them. So, I think there were good signs on and off the pitch. I agree that he was very important in the second half. It's kind of the first time we've really seen him do what he was signed to do. It's his first assist, the one for Lautaro. It was kind of the kind of assist that he was brought to give. I remember when Spalletti was interviewed right back in the summer, he said he sort of gives you that kind of turbocharge when you're going forward, and that's kind of what happened when he won the ball on Saturday. So I would say, let's not crown him the new the best signing ever in Inter's history. Let's wait a little bit, but that was definitely an encouraging performance that I didn't necessarily foresee.
But we can give him the no shit Sherlock of the Year award for discovering that alcohol and drink doesn't mix well when you're an elite athlete. Mo, I want to hear your thoughts. I mean, did you expect that that change in the second half after having watched the first? Because I sure didn't, because we've not seen anything to suggest that something like that was coming.
Look, I thought, first of all, I thought the entire match, the entire setup was overall better than the last two games. I felt quite positive. I didn't get that feeling that you were talking about earlier, that it was a destined to doom sort of match. I felt everybody was a bit more aggressive. And I also agree that the second half was far better than the first. It was the best half that we played in 2019, the Benevento game aside. So yeah, no, I think all in all, considering where the team was mentally and the fragile mental state, I think we couldn't have asked for a better match than this. I mean, we could have asked for a far better match with Icardi missing 4 sitters, of course, like on any other given day. But given the condition that Icardi's form is in, and the mental state of the team, and the whole media circus around the side, I was very satisfied with both result and performance.
Exactly. Speaking of the media, speaking of Icardi, or kind of a tangent off of that, Critty, I mean, Lautaro Martinez surely now has to be too good to be on the bench, because that performance, the movement and attitude and will and desire he showed when coming on, that's not just an accident, is it?
No, it's not. Before I get to that, I'd like to say it's great that Raja has cut his club time back from 4 a.m. to 2 a.m. So I think that's fantastic. I think that we should all live by that example after we turn 30. And number two, yeah, I was telling myself, there were times in the first half where I looked at the clock and the match and I was like, oh, damn, it's only the 25th minute. This sucks. And I was really just bored to tears. And the second half was a complete turnaround, and especially in the 76th or 77th minute when Lautaro came on, he was a ball of energy. I mean, the guy was all over the pitch. He was fighting. He was attacking. He was pressing. I mean, I was thoroughly impressed and enjoyed his performance. And I don't know. See, the thing is with him is we say, is it time for him to start? And I go back to the whole, Paco Alcacer move with Dortmund, how he's instant offense off the bench, and how he at one time led the Bundesliga in goals, playing only, a handful of minutes. And I don't know that Martinez isn't our super sub in that aspect. I don't know how it's going to be kind of a tricky thing, I think, for Spalletti to figure out how to start him and Icardi in the same match, side by side, in the same attack going forward. I think that he provides so many benefits for the team in the last 10, 20 minutes of the game. And like Mo and I said a couple weeks ago on the podcast, I would like to extend that 10, 15 minutes out to about 30 minutes. I'd like to see him maybe come on in the 60th or 65th minute to provide more of a 30-minute instant offense than the 10 or 15 he looks like he's getting right now. But yeah, I have nothing bad to say about him in this match. I thought that he came in and did what he was assigned to do. It was to put Inter up 1-0. He did that, and he played very well. Had another couple of opportunities after the goal he scored. So yeah, my hat's off to him. Excellent performance, I think, from what he did.
Absolutely. But for me, what I thought was really interesting is from his performance with Lautaro was that when you had Lautaro on the pitch, you have a player like Icardi all the way up there in the number 9 striker role in the 4-2-3-1. Lautaro naturally is much more moves much more and likes to drop in space. And when for example, I think a big example of that was Vecino's the build up to Vecino's chance, in that you have with Brozovic, Nainggolan, when Nainggolan plays a little bit deeper, and you have in Vecino, you don't have this kind of hole in link up. There's almost like a stepping stones all the way from goal all the way up to attack, and which makes the team less fragmented, at least from centrally. And I think that what we saw, he's more than just a goal scorer, I think, and finisher. I think his intelligence really showed there when he drops and plays that elegant little lob chip pass forward to Vecino, who inexplicably misses that chance. It's harder to miss there than score. But I think that's what I like the most. And I think as long as you have Icardi at the club, you're going to have someone like that, plays like a second striker, that links the team more together. I don't know if you agree with that, Mo.
No, I agree. I think I think that overall Icardi benefited from Lautaro's presence. I think will benefit from Lautaro's presence on the pitch. I think the goal that Lautaro scored in no small part was also due to Icardi's run off the cross run, which dragged away one of the central defenders, allowing Lautaro to move in behind the other. So, of course, two forward players who, whether they're central strikers or players that play in or around the opponent's penalty box, make life easier for each other. And of course, there are differing styles of play complement each other quite well. But we've also seen the partnership kind of not work when given a lot of time. So at this point in time, I feel like I agree with Critty's assessment of Lautaro's best contribution to the side, insofar as that his services best serve Inter if he comes in midway through the second half or early through the second half when required, rather than us pushing for him to be a starter alongside Icardi.
One thing that we've been discussing quite a bit on this show, through almost 2 years now, ever since he signed for Inter, is whether or not we want to see, João Mario playing on the right wing. And I thought he did really, really well there. And I thought he helped. His crossing is actually pretty decent, and he's calm with the ball and secure with the ball. That kind of gives Inter that extra edge. Okay, you lose a little bit when going forward down the right-hand flank, but when you're playing Danilo D'Ambrosio there anyway, it doesn't really matter because you're going to be attacking through the other wing, so that you're kind of more centralized anyway. I thought that panned out really, really well. Will, do you think this was just one of those things that Spalletti should, try to get rid of as soon as possible, or do you think that actually is a viable option going forward?
Well, I don't think he's gonna do it from the start. Let's remember that Inter had Politano and Keita both out in this game. It was not a full strength team. He didn't really have a huge amount of choice. Candareva's been poor in the last few weeks, so not just the last few weeks.
Yeah, I was going to say. I'm glad you discovered. That's why I giggled.
Yeah, I thought. Oh yes. I just said something silly. No, I don't expect it to happen going forward. But in terms of something that he's gonna go along with, because Politano comes back from that. I'm going to start that sentence again. That went wrong. Politano starts next week, I would imagine, against Samp. Because he's been one of Inter's best players this season, he's not really going to put João Mario in for him. I just think it's good that João Mario is an option, because again, I would not have thought that 6 months ago. So that more than João Mario should start or anything, and I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I'm just pleased he's there. So if it happens, if Inter find themselves in this position again, it's good to know that Antonio Candreva is not the only option. But he did play well. He
did.
The good thing about João Mario on the wing is that he's further away from goal, so he doesn't have to fall over his own boots when he comes close to the box.
I don't understand how he can be so poor, like a professional footballer in this day and age who cannot finish. It's really remarkable. Speaking of that, Vecino. Is it what was that?
It wasn't Garra Charrua, that's for sure.
I don't know what it was, but I don't understand how he can miss that. Miss from there. It's unbelievable. I thought. To be honest, what I thought. When you play Vecino, you know what you're going to get. He is a very limited player. he runs a lot, and what's good about him is that he runs into the box from deep, which makes Inter much more dangerous, because when Icardi's up there and no one else is moving into the box, the amazing tactics of crosses and inshallah, basically crossing into the box and hoping to God that someone somehow somewhere the ball will go to Icardi. But but with Vecino, you kind of actually can make the crosses matter, because it's hard to defend when a player comes with pace into your penalty area. But I think that's what Inter are lacking more than anything. That the midfield and wing players don't build up. It's basically Hail Marys, or it's easy to defend.
I think that's why the goal was so refreshing. It came from the middle of the pitch, not from a cross. That's why Raja was brought in. So. Yeah, I think that him and Vecino are very important to kind of diversify the way that Inter attack, and that's why I don't want to give up on Vecino, because he's got the characteristics that we need. I remember he scored the equaliser against Roma last season. I was ecstatic because it was a goal from a midfield runner. I felt like I hadn't seen it for 25 years. It was just so special, and we need more of that. So I hope that he can just be fit. I think that's the problem. That's one of the problems with Vecino. He keeps getting these problems, and that's not an excuse for why he didn't score on Saturday, but it does explain why he just seems so lethargic for so many matches. And I hope that he can recover some good form, because there was a period at the start of the season where he looked fantastic. So I would agree. He's an important player, or could be an important player.
Icardi is going through his longest goal drought in his Inter career. I think it's 7 games now in the Serie A that he hasn't scored, which has never happened before. But this also happens after this whole thing started with when Mrs. Icardi went off on a rant, and this whole situation regarding his contract and this media circus surrounding that really started. And Spalletti does what we'll get into that, because there's a lot to unpack there. But Spalletti does basically what he thinks he needs to do to get the dressing room united behind him, given that they kind of showed him faith by playing for him against Parma. So he wants to kind of be on their side. That's his assessment of the situation, by going out after the match and saying that this situation with Icardi needs to be addressed as soon as possible, because it seems to be affecting his game, something that everyone has been, we can see clearly by just looking at what's going on, that this off-field stuff is affecting him, and all the drama that she's causing. And I'm keen to hear. Do you think this was a mistake by Spalletti to kind of raise this issue? Because I've read a lot of comments suggesting that, Mo.
No, I don't think it's a mistake at all. I think I would like to imagine that the entire management structure of the squad is working in concert together, whether it's Marotta, Zhang, Spalletti. So I would like to think that this isn't like just Spalletti running his mouth off alone, or him doing something like a maverick. Look, not acknowledging the situation wasn't working. So maybe by doing this, they're tossing the ball back in Wanda's court, and we saw her come out in the press again just yesterday with some eyebrow raising reports. So look, I'm surprised, because this is the first time that a contract renewal or extension or whatever has seemingly affected Icardi so much on the pitch. We don't know. Maybe it's something else that's bothering him, but it seems like that is the thing that's bothering him, and it's the first time that this has happened. So I don't know. I can't judge how good or bad the decisions or the actions of the players or the various players in this little opera are until the conclusion of the results. But what we know for a fact is we need Icardi to find his scoring form ASAP, with Europa League right in a couple of days, and Milan and Roma breathing down our necks right behind us. It's very important for everyone that Icardi's form is regained. The guy starts banging in goals. That for me is the most important thing. Whether or not the different actions are right or wrong, I don't think we can judge right now. Only once this entire opera is played out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this, Critty, as well, because I mean, I don't think that Spalletti was running his mouth, so I'm actually with Mo on that. But I do think I don't agree, or like I have a different analysis. My analysis is that Spalletti was showing faith to the squad, basically backing them up for backing him up, in order to get this ship into harbor to the end of the season and finish in the top three, top four, top three. And I think that it wasn't so much as an attack on Marotta, who I think has been the best signing that Inter have made in a long time, because he's trying to impose the incredibly controversial notion that the club comes first and not players. And I think that's what a lot of this kind of boils down to. What is your take on that?
So I like what you just said about him showing faith to the players for showing faith in him. I do agree with that. So in Icardi's defense first, I will say in his defense, and then I'm going to really rip him a new one because I'm kind of getting sick and tired of the guy. A lot of his stuff have been very, very short misses. I mean, he's been very close on a number of shots. He had a number of opportunities in this game against Parma. So I don't think that he's it's just a lot. Some of it's just dumb luck. Some of it's just it's just not hitting his boot the right way, and it's ricocheting the wrong, it's just the wrong deflection, wrong angle, whatever. He's close, and it'll come. Those every striker, Lewandowski, he struggles with it. Cristiano Ronaldo took a while for him to get going in Serie A this season. Every striker, every number 9 goes through droughts. It's not a problem. My bigger issue, I like a drama-free club. I just don't like outward distractions, whether it's your wife, your agent, or in this case, both. Wanda's been just for me, just a permanent, sometimes darker than other times, but black cloud over this club for more years than I care to remember. And honestly, it's just the whole act, whether she says something on Tiki Taka, or whether she says something to the media, or whatever, it's just the fact that we keep talking about her. She keeps getting airtime. She keeps getting radio time, whatever it may be. We're talking about outward distractions. We're talking about agents. We're talking about contract extensions. We're not talking about players. We're not talking about the matches. We're talking more about the outward drama than anything else. And if you see really successful teams, really successful clubs, they don't have this crap. They don't have these distractions and these strings being pulled them in multiple directions, and having to have teammates defend the player because it's his contract, it's his extension, he deserves the money. Yeah, sure, okay, well, but it's never simple with Wanda and Mauro. It's never a simple, okay, here's the deal, sign it, shut up, let's go. I mean, it's always something else. It's always something different. It was this way 3 years ago when he signed his extension back in 2016. So to me, honestly, and I'm probably alone on this boat, he's becoming more trouble than he's worth. That's just my opinion, but I'm really getting sick of him and his wife in the sideshow.
Well, I'm sure someone will want to have a comment on that. Will, are you getting tired of the sideshow?
I mean, I'd rather it wasn't there, but I don't agree that he's more trouble than he's worth. Certainly at the moment, if you look at his performances, this is it's not exactly helping this situation, and it would be good if this were resolved fairly quickly. But wonder is wonder. A leopard does not change his or her spots.
Not a fish. Not a fish.
Yeah, she's a fish and a leopard.
Okay. Cool.
I'm not going to call her any other animals. I could get into trouble. So no,
sorry for my little fish named Wanda.
Yeah, 1980s film reference.
Yes,
probably 1% of our listeners will get.
I'm playing for a crowd of 2 here who's doing on the pod.
No, I knew what movie you were talking about, but I was like, man, is he really going there?
I went
disbelief.
Oh man.
This isn't why you block off an hour every week for Inter time. You want good content.
Right, exactly.
Hey, it's a funny movie. Come on, leave me alone.
Yeah,
I like
it.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to see it. It's great. It's awesome.
I have seen it, just not for a while. I don't really
Okay.
remember it. Anyway.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
No, I was pretty much finished. I don't. Yeah. No, speak.
Oh, speak. Yeah, you still with us, or have you given up after the fish named Wanda reference? He gave up after the fish named Wanda reference.
That is quite the stance. Just
Yeah.
That's it. I'm off.
It was such a bad movie reference.
I had my mic on mute. Sorry, fellas, and I didn't realize.
Yeah, go.
But
For
I was quite enjoying the Fish Call Wanda reference, and I really enjoyed the movie. And you young kids, stop bashing Nima for making
Thank you.
movies out of the greatest era in cinema's history.
Thank
all right.
you. Thank you. Yes, go Mo. Right. Apart from the glorious 80s and 80s montages, what are your thoughts on this?
I do believe it was early 90s, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But anyway, that aside, listen, I am sick and tired of the whole Wanda thing for sure. But like Will, I definitely don't think. Yeah, I'd much rather have the drama than not have Icardi. A million times over. The guy's been twice top scorer in the Serie A for us so far. He's by far the club's most prolific scorer over the last 7-8 seasons, 5 seasons, whatever. And hopefully he's going to have a long, bright future with us. So no, I think it's annoying, it's frustrating for sure. I share the sentiment, but the monster only rears its ugly head every 2 seasons and a half, and hopefully everyone learns from the problems or the ordeal, this time's ordeal, and they'll get better at sorting shit out quickly next time. So it is what it is, but I don't like it. It's nasty. I would have much rather we as Interisti and the club and whatever didn't have to suffer through this over the last 4 weeks. But I think once it blows over, everyone's going to forget all about it.
Yesterday night, she said something that I think this is again why I don't see the reason why I absolutely double down on my gut feeling and belief that he's out in the summer. And that's basically when she goes out and says that I want Mauro to be the most protected player in the squad. There's a lot of lies about him that come out, for example, that he had a fine or that he had watched a game together with Zanetti and Ausilio. I don't understand, or one doesn't understand if these ugly things come from inside or outside the club. That is a woman who is not, she's throwing punches at the club there, and that is just what I mean, the unnecessariness of it. And I think that with Marotta, because Marotta and Suning seem to be on the exact same wavelength in every aspect. And I think that this is a war that she and him are going to lose. The comments like these, it's not just one time, it just comes over and over and over again. And sure, you're right, Mo, the monster rears its head, brilliant analogy, every 2.5 years. But it's a little bit like, it feels like why live with a monster when you don't have to live with a monster? You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, like Critty said, I think a lot of people are coming to the conclusion, and I think at Inter as well, that it's worth. Is it really worth this?
Let me ask
sure,
you a question.
Go.
It's what major club would you say? Major clubs, like the guys that are really in contention for Champions League finals, would put up with this crap? Would sit there and let this man's agent / wife, whatever title she's going by today, dictate the atmosphere in the room, if you will, especially in the dressing room, where
I would counter by saying any club that has a Jorge Mendes or Jorge Mendes or a Raiola player. I think these two other agents generally cause far more controversy and destabilization wherever their players go than Wanda. I think I think, I think Mauro, for some reason or other, like the whole Mauro persona, has always attracted controversy through no fault of his own in 90% of the cases, and so has Wanda. Maybe it's her looks, maybe it's whatever, maybe it's their style, but they've always been lightning rods for controversy. So
but I don't think
know.
we can say that. We cannot say that. Like I don't know if I mean, sure, a lot of the times they end up in situations where they've done nothing wrong, but this situation they have created. Like
He created this.
Yeah, I mean, the club did not create this. You can't. The club did not put a gun to her head and say that she goes on with tiki taka on Mediaset and says that.
No, I'm not talking about this. I'm not talking about this incident in particular. I'm talking about in 90% of the cases. No. I agree that this is these last 4 weeks in particular have been not unusually nasty, but I also think that the whole Icardi thing has always been very antagonistic with the press. For some reason, they just love to vilify him and Wanda, and whatever report she comes out. I mean, again, I don't know what, Maybe I just have a subjective soft spot for the fella, and I'm willing to forgive a lot more than you guys. The normal objective person.
That's why you're Mr. Positivity. Yeah. You're the forgiveness guy.
But I mean, we have seen exactly what happened with Pogba at United with Mourinho. The guy gets Mourinho fired, and we've seen this. We've seen this with Mourinho again, and Diego Costa in Chelsea. We've seen this, and these are quote unquote big clubs who are in Champions League contention. We've seen this happen at other clubs many times, and you can't. But the thing is,
though, that Diego Costa was sent to Atletico Madrid. Adrien Rabiot's mother, Veronique Rabiot, and that relationship is. I mean, that's the closest I can think of in terms of examples when it comes to Wanda and Icardi, because that mother-son relationship does not seem healthy. They coordinate their dress. Never mind. Anyway, that's what happened at PSG, and the PSG are sending him away, I think, aren't they? I mean,
but Chelsea fired Mourinho for Diego Costa and Hazard and Fabregas because prior to finally getting rid of Diego Costa. But
but Conte had a problem. But Conte had an issue with Diego Costa. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That at some point the club draws the line. And I think that the thing here with Icardi is that he's never had a problem with any coach. The problem he's had is with the club, and it's hard to sack the club. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I think that in this tug of war between us, Marotta on one side and Wanda and Mauro on the other, which is kind of what it's ending up is, I only see one outcome there, and that outcome is Wanda and Mauro out.
Thing is, I wanted to say is that I was in the same boat with Mo. I defended him I've been defending him for years. And the week after his stupid book came out, I bought a shirt with his name on the back. I mean, I got kind of teased for it on Facebook. It was like, whose name is on the back? And I said Icardi. They're like, Inter fans were hating his guts back in 2016 when that book came out, and he had to patch things up with them, and he did a fine job of it. The fact of the matter is, though, that this is reoccurring. It's you said I don't want to go through this every 2.5 years every time he's up for an extension. I mean, how many?
It's draining. It's draining. It's really draining.
It's draining, and at some point, yes, I'm wanting to sell him for 150 million and go buy 3 other potential superstars. I mean, like, enough's enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are coming to that conclusion, and it will be interesting to follow, because Marotta, we have to also give the other side. Marotta came out and I mean, when Spalletti comes out and says that this is a situation, it needs to be attended, and everyone needs to be able to focus, and then you have Marotta, who I think has been. I honestly think that he's handled himself absolutely brilliantly since coming to this club, and I think he's not been given exactly an easy soft start. But he basically came out today and says that He wanted to say that Spalletti will explain everything to Spalletti. There's no issue with Icardi. As always, this guy is cool. Is just amazing, isn't it? I mean, talk about how. Can you just imagine if all of this was happening back in the Moratti days? Can you just I actually shudder to think of what would have happened when all this was going on back then. But now I really like Marotta because of his calm, his cool, his level-headedness. The man has got ice in his veins, and he always comes out and just says things to diffuse every situation. But I mean, it's as Gabriele Marcotti said, I think it was last week. He said the guy Marotta looks like he's aged 150 years and he's only been there for 2 months. Like this is not, I know Inter is special that way, that it kind of breaks, Inter years is not the same. It's like dog years. 1 year is 14 dog years and 7 dog years, and in one human year is 25 Inter years. So a lot can, I know Inter is special that way. But it's really, I'm really impressed by what Marotta has done, and I hope that that the sooner he gets into the swing of things, and I hope that Suning, now that you've hired him, you have to let him work. You have to go all the way. You can't back out now, because then you create this uncertainty, and uncertainty is never good. And I don't think they will, because it seems that when it comes in terms of finances, in terms of how they want to build for the future, they seem completely all on the same line. And that's why I'm thinking that this war is a war that the Icardis are going to lose. And I wonder if it's too late. I think we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Right, but on Thursday, let's move on. We're playing in the Europa League. Isn't everyone excited for that? Yay!
I'm very excited.
No, we're not excited, and we're playing a team that that kind of matches the excitement. Rapid Vienna. I couldn't care less about this game, but we have to, because it's one of the objectives. And I think that what we can ask from Inter is a quarterfinal place. Other than that, I want them to focus on the Serie A. But they have to beat Rapid Vienna. And with
it's not even a quarterfinal. It's just to get to the round of 16 if they win.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. Like, they have to get to the quarterfinals.
Oh, yeah, they have to get to the quarterfinals.
Yeah. That's like less the minimum.
And thing. Rapid Vienna is from the fake Bundesliga. They're not even from the real Bundesliga.
Nice one. But what are we expecting going into this, Critty? What do you know about Rapid Vienna? I know not much.
Well, I know a lot about RB Salzburg. But not too much about Rapid Vienna. Rapid Vienna is just their club in the Austrian Bundesliga, and I mean, that's it.
Yeah. That's not much.
They play in Austria, and they play good football for Austria. I can't really say too much more to it, other than the fact that they are basically at every position, skill-wise, experience-wise, and just level-wise, worse than Inter. So this would be a crying shame if Inter were not to come away with the victory here. But there is always Beersheba, so that was the same story a couple of years ago. So this should be. I mean, I would expect nothing less than an Inter victory here. A kind of 3-0, the 3-0 mold, like a really good feel-good kind of get back some momentum kind of offensive victory. But it's Inter, so you never know.
Inter, there is a player at Rapid Vienna who has played for Inter, or he played for Inter's youth team. I think Christoph Knasmüllner. Christoph Knasmüllner is his name. Müllner. He played for Inter. He was at Inter for 6 months at the youth team before he was sent to Ingolstadt and Admira Wacker, Barnsley, and then now he's enjoying his football at Rapid Vienna. Is there anything else to say here other than Inter have to win? I mean, the Parma victory will be pretty useless if Inter get hammered here. Don't you agree, Mo?
I agree completely. It's time to build momentum. It's time to make sure that we really did turn a corner, and we head into the meat and bones parts of the season with all cylinders firing. So I think nothing but a victory here.
Yeah, yeah. So let's not dwell too much on that game. I think this is a game where I think Lautaro should start. I think this is a game where I would
Yes.
where I'd like to see some rotation done. I'd like to see Miranda play. I'd like to see Dalbert play. I mean, I want to see some rotation here. Gagliardini and João Mario obviously not allowed to be registered in the European squads, so we're down to 2 men there. But Matteo Politano will for sure. I mean, I think he has to play some role in this game. Or at the very least against Sampdoria, which is a game that I'm really, really looking forward to. It's a team that that has Sampdoria is one of those enigmas to me. On the one hand, Gianpaolo they're just like their coach. On the one hand, Gianpaolo has this team playing some absolutely fantastic football. They can completely outplay some teams, and then they just completely lose their minds. And lose against Frosinone at home, and they have, I mean, it's a little bit, it's a little bit of an embodiment of Quagliarella, isn't it? One minute it's Zlatan Ibrahimovic-esque backheeled goals of the season, and then the other minute it's losing against Frosinone. I mean, there's no God knows what kind of team is turning up, but the game is at the San Siro. And it's going to be, and I think that speaks to Inter's favor at 6 p.m. kickoff on the Sunday. What are your expectations going into that, Mo?
Look, I'm always weary of meeting a side. First of all, like you said, Jekyll and Hyde side, because you never know what side is going to show up on their day. They can be, champion beaters and a side that's lost 2 games in a row. But on the other hand, it's better than facing a Sampdoria that's won two matches in a row and come into the San Siro in high spirits. So, like you, I'm excited. I'm a little nervous. I think much might depend on the performance in Vienna. A strong performance, because we know that we can beat, like Inter can beat Sampdoria no problem on their day if everything goes right. So if baby steps get taken in the right direction in Vienna and the squad builds in confidence, and then they come back into the Meazza on Sunday and take care of business. We'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic.
As always, which we like. So I'm going to turn to our Mr. Negativity, from the polar positive to the polar negative. Critty, so how badly will Inter screw this up?
Hey, so seriously though, Sampdoria has only had 1 win in the league since December 26th, and that was against Udinese 4-0. So I feel good about this. I don't really feel so negatively. Again, we're at home. I think that says a lot. That San Siro advantage does help out more than it hurts. And I think there's a lot of positives. And the second half of this match against Parma, on the road with the game 0-0, looking like another 1-point draw, which we just really couldn't afford to have. We needed some momentum, especially with Milan right on our tails. They pulled it out, and I think that Spalletti's he's kind of finding the fine tuning, and he's finding the right seasonings to go in the dish to get this team across the finish line and safely finish in the top 3. So, I think that everything's starting, as Mo's saying, turning the corner. That's a good way to put it. I think we are doing that, and I think that you see an upward trend with this team. I hope that this 9-goal thing, maybe we can cut the clubbing back to maybe 1:00 in the morning or maybe even midnight. That would be
one can only dream.
Maybe cut the alcohol consumption down to maybe 3 or 4 beers instead of the normal 12-pack.
One can only dream.
God only knows what he's capable of in that case. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff I think that we can be excited about, Nima. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Inter in this.
I'm going to ask you, Will, here. You've been quiet there in the corner a little bit. There's no Gianluca Caprari, so obviously I won't be happy. But so that'll ruin this game for me. But aside from Quagliarella, who should Inter look out for, do you think?
Well, this is not necessarily a problem in a defensive sense for Inter in terms of players that could hurt Inter, but Inter are very highly linked to Anderson, the centre-back, who's kind of taken Milan Skriniar's position in that central defensive position. there was talk that if Miranda left in January, then they might have tried to do something for him. There's been talk about it for a long time. So personally, I'm very interested to see how he hopes at San Siro. I remember when Samp came 2 years ago, when they beat us when we were in a terrible moment. Skriniar was extraordinary at San Siro when he basically annulled Icardi in that game. So maybe this will be another sort of love at first sight moment. So that's quite interesting from an Inter perspective. I mean, look, Quagliarella is, I don't know. I don't think he's ever been in a form like this. He's always been a scorer of great goals, but he's never been a great scorer of goals. So it's quite remarkable that he's made this record. I think I agree with you, Nima, in the sense that I didn't want Batistuta to disappear from Serie A's record books, particularly given that he set that record in a really difficult era, much more difficult than this one. But it is still a remarkable achievement, what he did. So, yeah, Quagliarella's always difficult. Gabbiadini's just turned up.
He's good. He scores against Inter. He turns up against Inter. I mean, he's got a history there.
Yeah, well, we could have had him for, what was it, 50 plus Gabbiadini if we'd remember that glorious summer when we could have skipped Napoli Icardi and taken Gabbiadini and 50 million. It's a difficult game. I'm interested to see what happens. Samp are a side that play well against the big sides and then wilt against teams that they should beat, and that's why these teams never actually get into the Champions League in the end. That's why I think what Atalanta are doing at the moment is so impressive, because they are getting these points. I'm interested to see. More than anything, I'm interested to see how Spalletti sort of manages the rotation between Cup and League, because it's not a huge turnaround. I think Lautaro will definitely start on Thursday, so that would imagine that I would imagine that he won't play on Sunday. Dalbert is not in the Europa League list either, Nima, by the way. He can't play on Thursday, so it'll be Asamoah or D'Ambrosio left back. So maybe he'll play on Sunday. I don't know. Politano's back. Keita will be back. Maybe if he's, maybe he won't be fit enough to start, but it'd be good to have them back. It should be a good game. Last year, this was probably our best performance of the season until minute 65 when we shut up and Sam came back into it. But it should be a pleasing game. But then I look at the last few matches that we've been involved in: 0-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-1 after extra time, 1-0. Maybe it won't be a goal fest. I'll take the points.
I'll take the points too. So give me a prediction.
Well, I'll have to stick with that. I'll say 1-0. Who's going to score? That's a good
question.
To
be Icardi. I mean, he always scores against Sampdoria.
Yeah, I remember the Mazzarri game where he scored with a 90th minute penalty. That was. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I hope he scores, because
for me it's Icardi, and he scored 2, and because he always turns up against Sampdoria, his former team.
Yeah, he's got that motivation. If there's anything that can wake him from his slumber, it's the chance to stick the knife into Sampdoria's back again.
And also, Anderson is good, but I think, just as a side note, I don't think Inter need any more central defenders, because what I saw with Bastoni do for 90 minutes against Inter this weekend, I mean, wow, what a player. Well done, Piero. Right, as a little side note. Mo, predictions, Sampdoria, give me quickly.
I think it's an Inter win. I think it's 2-1.
Okay. Critty, did you say your prediction, or did you?
Yeah. So I'm going to go 2-1. Manolo Gabbiadini scores for Samp, and Icardi breaks his drought. And I think Raja, with one beer in his hand, will score the other.
Don't Inter have like a Peroni deal? Like, make yourself useful, Raja. Right. I think they do have a deal with Peroni. Right. Anyway.
Perfect for him. Perfect.
Don't encourage him.
Okay, before this turns into
an intervention.
Let's move on to the part of the show where we walk back and walk down memory lane, highlighting a player or a coach worthy of being branded Inter Legends, and it will be presented by Mr. Critty Smith.
Non è un personaggio che può essere sostituito, perché era un personaggio assolutamente unico. Il fatto che abbia sempre pensato e avuto nel cuore due colori, il nero e l'azzurro.
Okay, guys, so today we're going back to the Trapattoni era and the late 80s, early 90s, and we're going to finish off the German trio. The only one we haven't talked about so far is the man who scored the game-winning goal of the 1990 World Cup against Diego Maradona's Argentina, and that is Andreas Brehme. And the title of his article that we wrote for him on SempreInter in the Inter Legend series was the German Utility Man. So he was kind of like the Swiss Army knife of Inter players during his time. He could really play just basically any position except keeper. The question is more, he's one of those guys I actually struggle with as far as saying, outright Inter legend. He did make 116 appearances for the club, but some of these guys, especially the last season after Trapattoni left, Matthäus and Brehme and Klinsmann stayed around for one year longer than they probably should have. And a little bit of, I guess, some of the good feeling of the UEFA Cup and the Scudetto that they won in the years prior kind of got rubbed off because Inter had a very mediocre finish that season. Not their fault, really, and more tactical than really player performance in terms of why they finished so poorly. But Brehme, is he an Inter legend in the terms of, I see him as a fringe Inter legend, to be quite honest, because to me he's better known for his time at 1. FC Kaiserslautern, which is his club before Inter, and then again he went back there 5 years from 1993 to 1998, becoming he was a member of the club actually that only Bundesliga club in history to get promoted, and then the very next season they won the Bundesliga title, which is just unbelievable when you think about, that was still 1998. That's not like the 70s. It's still modern football. There was still big money starting to be handed out at that time, and Kaiserslautern went from promotion to winning the Bundesliga with Bayern in the same league, and Dortmund at that time very strong as well. So I wanted to kind of turn it over to you, Nima, starting off with how do you see Brehme in his time at Inter, because obviously the star of that team was Lothar Matthäus. I mean, it was undisputed, and then of course the other guy who gets a little bit more of the glory, I think, because he was the goal scorer, was Jürgen Klinsmann. So how do you rate Brehme in terms of Inter legend? Is he there? Is he not? Is he kind of an honorable mention? What do you think?
For me, for sure, he's an Inter legend, because I think as in terms of left backs go, he's after Facchetti perhaps the best left back Inter have ever had. The man could hit a football harder than should be like humanly possible. I mean, they called him in Germany, I know, Eisenfuß, like iron foot, because of that. He had an absolutely amazing ability to hit the ball, and his utility, and it's absolutely true, the utility part. He played everywhere for Germany as well. He could play everywhere, and he could do every single role right. But his left foot, his crosses, his shooting, his ability, his goals in important games, for me he's definitely an Inter legend, and I hold him in higher regard than Klinsmann at Inter in terms of legends, because he completely dominated that left flank when he was playing there. And allowed Trapattoni's football was very much, needed. You needed the brilliance of Matthäus in the middle, and the movement and crossing and pace and ability to change things around by these brilliant passes that Brehme delivered. So for me, Andy Brehme is without a shadow of a doubt. And you have to remember the Inter de record that Trapattoni had. Klinsmann came the season after. Brehme was there. Brehme was a integral part of that team. So for me, he's definitely an Inter legend.
So Mo, what are some of your thoughts about Andreas Brehme?
Yeah, no, I think we spoke about this a bit in the Klinsmann and the Matthäus episodes. And I agree with Nima. He's, to me at least, while Brehme is definitely not as big of a marquee name as Klinsmann is, his impact on the team as an Inter player makes him far more deserving of the legend status. I mean, having won the Scudetto as well, and yeah. So again, the German trio, like we said in the Klinsmann episode, is a legendary trio for Inter. But the two legends of that trio in and of themselves would probably be Matthäus and Brehme for me. And yeah, so I agree completely.
So Will, did you have something you wanted to say about Brehme in terms of his Inter importance?
No, I agree. I think I would call him a legend. He won the Scudetto. He was an important part of that Scudetto winning side. He didn't, from what I can gather, didn't sort of create much fanfare when he arrived because Matteos was there, and that was pretty much the main attraction in terms of Inter's German contingent. But I think he's more deserving of it than Klinsmann for sure. I think I said a few weeks ago that if you were going to tell someone who'd never heard of Inter about the three Germans, Klinsmann would be the last one, and I think Bremer would be much closer to Matteos in that sense. So I don't have a problem with him being called an Inter legend. You could say that with Zanetti he's the last proper left back that's happened to play for this club. So I don't have a problem with it at all.
So Nima, one thing it's funny because when the Germans got the penalty in the World Cup final, it was on a team, by the way, that featured Jürgen Kohler, Lothar Matthäus, Jürgen Klinsmann, Rudi Völler. It was Andreas Bremer that stepped up to take that kick against Argentina, and of course scored the only goal of that game. It's Will and Mo kind of hit on this. It wasn't with the most fanfare. It's like Andreas Bremer is kind of like it's almost like because Matthäus was such a big name and Klinsmann was obviously the number 9, so it's a sexier position. Bremer is almost, do you think maybe of the three, obviously he's the second most important, but maybe the most forgotten?
Probably out of the three for sure. But I mean, I think that is such a great euphemism or such a great example of his career, because that World Cup, Matthäus was fantastic. He won the Ballon d'Or. He became the Player of the Year. He also was a player who always took I mean, he always took the penalties. He always took the penalties, and all of a sudden, all of a sudden you have, from nowhere, it's Bremer who's standing there, and not Matthäus, because up until that point, every penalty had been taken by Matthäus. So that was very. That was, I mean, and he also buried it with his right foot, which many people forget that he had a very good right foot as well. So that for me is very very impressive.
Do you know who? Do you know who was compared to Bremer in the summer?
No.
In terms of arriving under the radar and quietly impressing, Politano by Aldo Serena. He said really? Politano could be a Bremer kind of signing in that, he comes with, he's signed at the same time as players that have a greater media presence, i.e. maybe Nainggolan in this instance, Lautaro. And suddenly a couple of months into the season, you realise, actually, this guy's really good. He's quite important. So I like that. I just thought I'd throw that because obviously Aldo Serena played with Bremer.
You're absolutely right as far as the media presence goes. I mean, he kind of just, Bremer took a managerial position in Germany after he retired, and he's just kind of, he's around, but he's faded. You see Matthäus everywhere. He Klinsmann's all over the media. Lives in California, coached U.S. men's national team. But Bremer just, honestly, he just kind of faded away.
Indeed. Right. I know that was awesome. Awesome, Critty. Let's move on to the part of the show where we pay tribute, rip the piss out of, and criticize someone in the world of football heavily, starting with the Moggi of the week, which will be presented by Mr. Will Beckman.
Yeah, I don't often take these away from football, but I will do on this occasion because I think there's justification for it in this sense. You're into one, so we don't need to shout at the players. Just we can give that a break until next week. There's actually two Moggis this week, but they are partners in crime. Most literally they are partners in crime. Lorenzo Marinelli and Daniel Bazzano. They are 24 and 25 years old, respectively, and their crime is to have destroyed the hopes and dreams of a very promising young athlete who was making his way through he's coming to the end of his teens, 19 years old. He's a swimmer. He's called Manuel Bortuzzo. He has been training with sort of Italy's best swimmers for the last couple of years. He's been in training camps. He's been quietly impressing in sort of his various age groups and was tipped for big things. But he won't be a professional swimmer anymore because a couple of weeks ago he was shot and he now can't walk and he will never walk again, apparently. He's still, and so what happened was he was in Rome with his girlfriend. They were going for a walk. And they were sort of outside a pub or a nightclub where there were some disturbances going on. They were just walking past because they wanted to get an ice cream or something from a shop that was nearby. And these two blokes basically did a drive-by shooting on him. They turned up. According to this is Bortuzzo's version of events. He says that they turned up as they came past. They had their backs to each other. So in other words, one of them was riding along, and the other one was sort of facing backwards, and I think it was him that fired the gun. But the even more remarkable thing is that this was a case of mistaken identity. So these two lads didn't want to shoot him; they wanted to shoot someone else. So they've been arrested. They're in custody at the moment, and they've admitted that we didn't mean to shoot this guy. We have no idea who he is, but they have quite clearly meant to do it to someone else. They planned this out. They threw the gun away afterwards. They seem to have a very clear plan of what they were going to do. It just obviously it failed from their point of view. So Manuel is not. He still thinks he is going to walk again. He's very optimistic. I think it's very good of him to not give up. But it looks as if he will not be a swimmer, and he will not be going to World Championships and Olympics and whatever, because he's been deprived of the ability to walk, and it's a horrible thing. So those are the two Moggis of the week. They are bastards.
Absolutely. Right, let's move on to something much more positive. This week's Moratti, which will be presented by Mr. Critty Smith.
He works a lot, he's intelligent, and he surprises people sometimes with his ideas. Not easy to find one person of this qualities.
This week's Moratti, after we focus on what we talked about earlier in this very episode about the dark cloud and distractions that we have sometimes with the club, this guy looked like one of the most exciting summer signings we had, and then it turned kind of dark towards Christmas when we heard some comments coming out that he made about the club. And what I'm hopeful for, and as we all are hopeful for, is that we just saw his last performance turn out to be quite good, is the kind of resurrection of one Raja Nainggolan. And I think that's something that we're all hopeful of, in the fact that maybe there's a different kind of a maturing, I guess you will, of this player, because he's now said he understands that he has to do certain things differently as he gets older and keep himself in better shape and to take better care of himself. And that, to me, is a sign of understanding where you are in your life and your career. And, it shows some kind of dedication that you want to be a premier football player, a professional athlete, if you will, and represent the club and the crest with honor and dignity and pride. And, it was kind of troublesome when you listened earlier in the season that, he's a clubber, he whatever he does, he's a raver. I don't know what he does in his free time, but he's a party animal. And, Spalletti was seemingly okay with that. I don't care what he does off the pitch, but that does matter. Those things add up. It's like a bunch of $2 charges on your debit card. It's like, after a while, it's going to add up to $250 and you have to pay the piper. And, Nainggolan you can't sustain that kind of lifestyle and try to be a performance athlete like he is, and like so many of us expect our players to be. The fact that he's seemingly coming to a conclusion of that's not going to work is good news for all of us. And I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic that he has he's turning a corner, not just in his professional career, but maybe also in his personal life, to kind of settle down and be a little bit more, how should I say?
An adult.
Adult in his way of thinking. So I think I will give it to him cautiously. I'm going to give him the Moratti cautiously this week and extend an olive branch.
This is the Studio Inter's first cautious Moratti.
Moratti, yeah, exactly.
the cautious Moratti. But yes, that's this week's Moratti is Raja Nainggolan, and here's to many more such outings as last week.
Got his crest back. Got his Mohican back. He said he's done it for good luck or something. Mark? I thought we'd never. Yeah. Thought we'd never see it again.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to comment more on that. Let's move on to something slightly more comical. This week's frog, which I'll be presenting myself.
È clamoroso! Autogol di Ranocchia!
So when a super genius like Maurizio Zamparini, who everyone who listens to this pod knows I love, when he leaves Palermo, it can't ever be easy because he's left the club, he sold it. But the new owners won't be. I mean, it was bound to never ever just be that easy, is it? Because apparently one of the people that is involved. Is one of the people involved in interested in taking over is a person called Raffaello Folieri. Now, why is this a frog? Well, we used to be dating a Hollywood star named Anne Hathaway, but they broke up because he had to go to prison in 2008 in America for 4.5 years for pleading guilty to 14 counts of conspiracy, wire fraud, and money laundering charges. And that's why he broke up with her. He's been trying to get into calcio. He's been trying to buy Foggia, in another club in southern Italy. And one of the investors back then was according to Vanity Fair, Ron Burkle, who owns Pittsburgh Penguins, a part owner there. But however. That's what he claimed back then, that Ron Burkle, the part owner of Pittsburgh Penguins hockey team, was going to help him buy Foggia. But Burkle's lawyer told Vanity Fair that Folieri, quote, is just making this BS up. There is absolutely zero chance that Ron would invest with Folieri directly or indirectly. But Folieri insisted back then that Burkle would be on his team. My interviews with the Italian press were accurate and precise. It's a shame that after I paid my debt to society, some people still have the need to put me down and don't give a person a second chance. This is the guy that is rumored to take over Palermo after Zamparini, and I don't know. I hope this doesn't happen because it seems like this guy is not the guy. Is not someone who Palermo needs, but it is definitely worthy. It is definitely very in the insanity brand and taste of that. After Zamparini leaves, it has to be some Hollywood dating, money laundering, crazy person who's a con artist. That is interested. I hope it doesn't happen, but I had a little giggle when I read about this. Right, that's all we had time for this week. I'd like to thank Mo and Critty for joining us. They had to run away, and I'd also like to thank Will for coming back, making his return.
Thank you. It's glad to be back. Can I say one more? Can I make a birthday wish before we?
Yeah, sure. Go.
Valentino Rossi. He's turning 40 this weekend. He's one of Inter's most famous supporters, and this year he's got a bike that's actually Inter's colours as well. So he's a good man, and I wish him
decent man.
I wish him all the best in his post 40th birthday life. He turns 40 on Saturday.
Absolutely. Buon compleanno, Valentino Rossi. A big Inter fan. Always. He's a big Inter fan. He's never made exactly any secrets of being an Inter fan either. So, buon compleanno, Valentino Rossi. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Critty. And until next week, this is Nima Tavallaey wishing you 2 wins, 3 points, and sempre e solo forza Inter.